Hello and welcome back to the Elevated Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Raylen Davis, and with me today is a very interesting guest. And I'm actually really excited because we did something really special before this one to prepare for this podcast. But my guest today is Andrea del... Okay, so I'm going to screw this name up. Hold on. I want you to credit me on trying. But Andrea, see that?
All right.
I rolled the R.
Yes.
Andrea de Niño.
Niño de Guzman.
Niño de Guzman.
Niño.
Okay. I'm getting close. But
You get it close, you did great.
I practiced the rolling of the R because I felt like that was really
Yes.
important, but then I forgot the rest of it. Anyway, so my guest today uses a couple different tools to helping people get recalibrated, and we'll explain what that means in their business. And the reason why I wanted her on the podcast was because, one, I listened to her podcast, I've seen her work, and one of the most amazing things she does is she helps people get aligned in their purpose and business, because it's perfectly possible for you to make money from what you love talking about, what you love doing. And you help people do that. So first and foremost, thank you for coming to the podcast, Andrea.
Love it. Love being here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Okay, so the first thing I want to know, so here's the plan today. And if you're listening to this, again, this is one of my most exciting episodes we've did. We did a human design session together. And so today I want to go over that. I want to break that down. But before we get to that, though, I want to know the road to becoming a coach, right? Talk to me about what led you here. Maybe what did you do before you became a coach, and then what led you to want to use a tool like human design of all things? There's 1,000,000,001 coaches out there. They do different things, but you found this super unique path of helping people, and I'm curious what got you here? I know it's a big question.
All right. Oh, it's a perfect question. My journey started 2014. Back then, I was not part of coaching world at all. I was actually in corporate. I'm a finance and business major by trade. Very rational, analytical thinking. I wanted to save the world, economic policy and all that. And back then I was running 2 companies at the same time, very big companies. And I burnt myself out. And what happened is I was in charge of the finance department. I was one of the only women and the youngest female executive on the team. And I got to my office one day and I could not add. I did not have the brain power to add. And I was the one that did all the financial projections for all, the financial forecasting for all the projects. And I literally could not add 2 + 2. It was just so, the mental power that required for me to do that was immense. And then all of a sudden, making the smallest decisions, like what am I going to wear today? Or am I going to make this payment? Or how am I going to manage my team? All of that just became incredibly overwhelming. And back then I had no training on any personal development. I had done no work at all. So in my mind, all I kept on thinking was nobody can find out. Nobody can find out about this. And I kept it quiet for almost 2 years while I found ways to heal myself, I guess. And that's when I learned how to delegate.
Was it just
I was afraid of
burnout?
losing my job. I was afraid. I had a very, very high profile job, and I was in the middle of a divorce back then, and I felt like I needed that income, that safety, and I was going to hold on to it as, with whatever it took.
Man, so that was like really tough time then.
Oh,
between the divorce,
it was
between
tough.
The work,
Yes.
you had to almost reinvent even if you don't have work or your relationship, who am I?
Exactly. And I had, 2 small kids at that time. And so I was on the outside, it felt like I had everything put together. I was a superwoman, but on the inside, it was the dam was about to break with the leaks. It was a tough time. So that's when I found out that I could actually change the way that I ate and my habits and how I was taking care of myself. And I actually became a wellness coach. In that process, I really, really enjoyed this whole concept of what you eat is really a reflection of who you are and all of that. And I said, okay, let's do this, because I noticed that it began helping me, and I noticed that I could help other people in the process. So my first coaching, I guess, business was all on wellness, on health and wellness. I worked exclusively with people who were struggling with chronic stress and chronic inflammation. So many of my clients were in their late 50s, early 60s. They were, they were struggling health-wise, but they didn't know what was going on with them. And then in that process, as I was following the protocols of, very strict diet and eliminating carbs and refined sugars and whatnot, that's when I discovered that most of my clients, or the ones that struggled the most, were the ones that had the biggest regrets in their life. So it was really like the regrets were, or the physical disease was a reflection of the regrets or the inner dialogue that they were having of, I should have, I wish I had, it's like life was passing by and they weren't really fully living it. So then that took me to life coaching, because I figured, okay, I'm catching them too late. Because by the time when disease manifests, it's not that it's late for you, but you can do a lot of stuff ahead of time, right? So I figured it's not just what you eat, it's not just how you live your life, it's really what's going on inside of your mind and the perception that you have of yourself. So I studied, I became a certified life coach. I started working with people in that sense. Still kind of unsure of what I wanted to do with it. Then the pandemic hit, and literally 6 months before the pandemic hit, I decided to quit my high-end corporate job, thinking that I was going to start a business on my own. Yeah. I'm in Bolivia, and if you follow Bolivian history, right at that time, we also went through a huge political turmoil. We overthrew our president, so the country was on standstill for like 3 months, like right as I was as I was quitting. So being an entrepreneur has been a really interesting journey of lots of systemic shocks, if you could say that.
It's also like and it really tests, and we'll probably get into this later too, but it really tests the idea of not having external circumstances dictate what we do.
Oh yes,
because you got challenged right out the gate with external circumstances, like a lot.
Yes, and back then my idea was just to focus on coaching locally. So with the pandemic and all of that, I decided, okay, I can do this online as well. And I was very focused on perfecting my coaching craft, but it still didn't matter. Like there was something missing, because I love coaching, and there's only so much you can do with coaching, and just by having a conversation, because people's limiting beliefs and their subconscious mind is still having a parallel conversation with the one that you're having with a coach. And I felt like there was something missing, but I didn't know what. So then I figured, okay, let's go into subconscious mind reprogramming. I became a hypnotist. I became certified in a bunch of other modalities to reprogram the subconscious mind. And I was like, okay, this is great, but there's still something more there. How can I combine these two fields together? And that's when human design basically landed on my lap. It was really weird, because I kept on seeing it over again and again on social media and on different, websites and podcasts, and I didn't know what it was. When I looked up that chart, and you've seen that chart, and it's a very complex chart, I thought, no, this is not for me. No way. I have no idea what this means. No, we're not doing this. But it just kept on showing up and showing up and showing up. And then eventually I ended up signing up for a certification, basically hours before the cutoff date. So I wasn't really sure what I was going into, but I was following my gut intuition, my sense that says, okay, this is what you have to do next. And when I started understanding my design, that's when it hit me of, okay, this is like the glue that sticks the coaching with the subconscious mind reprogram. This is the foundational piece that I was looking for, and that I didn't know exactly what it was, because when I started to understand how I was designed, all those years of burnout, all those years of imposter syndrome suddenly started to make sense. Now I knew why I had been behaving that way.
Yeah, and then so you found this tool that kind of connects all the other tools together that makes sense to actually helping clients get better outcomes. Because it's funny, like I recently got into more things regarding, I guess you could say, like perception, right? Like, how can I help my clients see the world differently? And I remember even telling, when I first started Elevated, I told Tim, like our branding guy, I said, look, the only goal I have is somebody to leave the academy, right? Let's say after a year, they leave the mastermind. If they can say to me, not that they made a whole bunch of money, but if they say to me, I see the world differently now, that's a win. Like, that was my thing. Yes. But then, because I realized that was my goal, because I was doing so many tactical things, and it wasn't helping the root cause, which it sounds like, again, you found through human design, you can get to that root cause and actually affect real change that's lasting. Is that fair?
Yes, yes, yes. And I love how my conversations have shifted, because when I started coaching, my focus was on, okay, what's wrong with you? Let's change. Let's fix you. Let's get rid of those limiting beliefs. And yes, it's great to help people in that sense, but the whole focus was on, there's something wrong with you. You need to be fixed. We need to make sure that you are on par with something else. Whereas with human design, the focus is different. It's on, you're not broken, you're not fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect as you are. Maybe the only thing that you have going against you is that you don't understand yourself fully, or other people don't really understand you, and therefore you feel like you are less than, but you're not really less than. So there's no fixing.
Yeah.
It's just more of a discovery.
Because you and I had this conversation the other day too, where it's like, I believe in what we do is true transformation. And the word transformation is interesting because it implies, again, transitioning to something, it implies something else. But really what it is transitioning from who you think you are to who you really are. Versus self-help starts with the premise that you're broken. And that's always been my issue with the different modalities, the way people try to help themselves. It's because if you start with the premise that you're broken, that's going to be in your conclusion as well.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Maybe the next place we go, can we take a moment and let's explain human design? Like, what is it? What is its purpose? And just give us a dummy version, because I'm a dummy. Like, let's break it down. What is human design? What is it meant to do?
I like to describe human design as the science of understanding yourself. It's a synthesis that combines ancient wisdom. So you have astrology, you have the I Ching, the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah, and the Hindu chakra system. So those are the 4 ancient wisdom or ancient traditions. And those are synthesized with quantum physics. And my take, and this is completely mine, is also epigenetics, because as you change the perception that you have of yourself, your inner dialogue changes, and how your DNA manifests and how your cells express themselves also changes, because your behavior, your environment has shifted as well. Right? So
give me a little more
combination
on that,
between ancient and modern.
Give me a little more on the epigenetics part of it, because it makes, again, this epigenetic part of it is very new to me. And I'm fascinated by it because it makes perfect sense, right? Like, if the example I gave to Elevated in our attention meeting the other day was, I was thinking about an argument that I was going to need to have, and my heart started racing, my palms got sweaty, right? And like, I'm in this aggressive state when this thing in my head is not real. Like, the conversation never took place. It was like a feature that but yet my body was in this state of aggressiveness for literally no reason, but because of the reality that I made up in my head, my genes, you could argue, right, like, started to express themselves in a certain way. Now I can see how if that was your life all the time, well, no wonder why you're primed to be that aggressive. So maybe go into that epigenetic thing a little bit more and explain it probably better than me, because I'm new to this,
Sure.
but I'm fascinated by it.
I'm just as fascinated. I'm not an expert, but this is what I can say. When you have this constant dialogue in your mind of, oh, I'm so inadequate. Oh, look at me. I'm just going to make a mess of myself. I'm just going to make a fool of myself. This is going to be so hard. Or what are they going to say? You're just so worried about how others are going to judge you, or you're so worried about maybe even messing up because that's how you were raised to think. Then all of a sudden, from a neurological perspective, the clues or the cues that you're giving your mind or your brain to look out for is proof of that's what's going to happen, right? You're programming your mind to look for evidence that, yes, you are a failure, that, yes, this isn't going to work out. But then on a more physiological level, the dialogue that you're having and that inner conversation that you're having is also impacting the hormones that get secreted. It's impacting the systems that are running. So probably part of part of your self-defense system, or the system that wants to keep you safe from real physical danger is activated and is going on overdrive. And that in turn is also shutting down other systems, maybe less important systems when you are in danger. And that in turn is affecting how other tertiary or smaller systems are working. And then if you look at it into a cell level and a DNA level, that is also influencing which cells and how each of these cells are getting expressed and how they are communicating with each other. All of that from just a single thought, or not just one thought, but a recurring thought of, I'm a fool, I'm a failure, nobody's going to want me, nobody's going to hire me, this is not going to work out, right? And when we bring that to human design, and when we change the conversation, because human design is that conversation of, there's nothing wrong with you, right? When you start identifying and giving yourself permission to just be who you really are instead of who you're supposed to be, then that inner dialogue starts shifting, because you give yourself permission to be that person instead of hiding it, instead of avoiding being that person. All of a sudden, it's comfortable to think different. It's comfortable to be the opinionated one. It's comfortable to be the lazy one, and then when that happens, different hormones, different chemicals get expressed. Your systems start operating together instead of against each other. And that obviously is going to influence and impact the way that your cells get expressed and eventually your DNA.
Well, I think too, it's even the courage, like it gives you the courage to be, right, like what you were, like who you are in a sense. And I think I always struggle with these things. I even asked you during our session, which we'll get into next, but I was like, all right, what do you mean fixed? Because I'm like, that sounds like a load of bullshit to me. But the way that basically I understood it was these are just things that we are, it's almost like a starting block, right? Like each of us, because of our genes, because of whatever, it's almost like a gene in that, hey, this is your starting block, but doesn't mean this is destiny, right? It just means that This is kind of where, just be aware that this is where you're at. And then I accepted that result a little bit better. I was like, okay, we're okay. We can continue. Because I do struggle with the idea, like it's interesting because I even look at let's take lazy people, for example. I look at people who are lazy differently now, I think as a result of the human design thing, because it's like, okay, you're not lazy. I think there's two types of, I'm just using the word lazy as a placeholder. But for one, you have people that have thought patterns that are holding them back to take action because they're afraid. I realize those are the people that I have an issue with, because you can control that. Like that's a thought pattern that once you're aware of, it's on you to change that. And if you don't make any more excuses. And then there's the people that maybe operate better. Like I have somebody on my team that she's like, Raylen, I'm telling you right now, like I'm going to do it last minute. It's going to be really good, but I'm going to do it last minute. And it's like accepting, okay, that's how she operates. Like, okay, cool. So now I just give her like ridiculous deadlines. But it's like, but it's sometimes it's understanding people. So it's a little bit different versus before it was just like this thing of, why aren't you doing this? You know what I mean? Like you're just lazy. But let's jump into the human design thing. Okay. So I don't know, where should we start with my reading on the human design? Where should we start?
I would love to hear your perspective, because you had no idea what you were getting yourself into.
Okay, so there's a couple insights from it. So one, for those that know of human design, you can kind of look this stuff up, but I was a projector, right? Like just a projector. There wasn't like an added thing to it. So a projector. So pretty much this is what I remembered. You can tell me how this would be a test to see how well I was listening. But a protector is best known for guiding, coaching, and teaching. And which that was interesting because it kind of gave validity to my issue and also my great strength, which also I love the way that you were breaking down the human design thing to me, because it's not all like, this is all great, like it's good, but also there's a negative side to it. So the good part about what I do is I'm constantly guiding people to, you can argue it's like the road to nobody or enlightenment. I'm trying to get people to become better, their better self. So it gave, I guess the word validity to how I feel inside, which was cool. But also the negative side of that I learned from you, and the shadow side is that I often give people advice, guidance, whatever, without being asked. And I need to do a better job of receiving the invitation. So like basically saying, hey, like, do you want this? And then being accepting of the fact that, they don't want it. The other thing that how I lead needed to change And I actually got this again from the human design, because my initial thing when I first started the agency, it was very much like, do it my way, do it right now, go. But I don't lead best that way. Again, according to the human design, I lead better in a collaborative sense, which is interesting because in the last month, I've completely changed. Even before the human design, I changed the way that I lead, and I'm so much more happy now. And it's more like, hey, you're the expert. I'm going to tell you the vision. You're the expert. Teach me, like, basically get us there. So that was really insightful. And then I'm trying to remember the other thing. Yeah, anyway, so that's what I remember. But I think the best insights from the human design one was it gave me this feeling of I'm on the right path, because all of my current offers are in line with my human design, which is super fascinating because, again, with not knowing my human design, I created my entire business around how I operate, and even our purpose is designed around my human design, which I didn't know about. So it was like kind of this weird kind of like Andrea's like in my fucking diary kind of shit. Like it was like, what the fuck? Like this is weird. Andrea knows this, but for those that are listening, I literally in the middle of the session ran and got my fiance. I was like, dude, you need to hear this shit. This shit's crazy. Like, come over here. But anyway, but yeah, that's some of the insights. I'm sure I'll remember more as we go on. But
you see how with those just two pieces of information, your perception of yourself as a business owner, as an entrepreneur has changed. Because I'm sure that like once you have this confirmation of this is how you are designed to lead, to build a business, these are your gifts, then there is no room for, oh, I should be doing this. I should be focusing more on the tactical. Oh, I should be focusing more on the strategic. No, you just know that you are designed to be a guide. You just know that you're very good at picking up systems, and you're very good at understanding the patterns that need to change to help people with their expansion. Because that is you're just designed to be that way. Or just like you're designed to leverage your network and create these like deep, meaningful relationships with people. So once you have that understanding, there really isn't room for, yeah, but what if, or yes, but I should. And that's how we start changing. Because
one of the things I realized, it gave me permission to do what I love doing. So like a perfect example is last night, there was somebody that I shouted out on my Instagram because he's a personal trainer, and somebody told me a while ago, like, hey, like you need to not give free advice to people because they take advantage of it. And granted, I've been kind of screwed over, I guess you could say, or like used or whatever, because I do that naturally. But so I was getting ready to send him a message, which I was just going to coach him up. Like, hey, I think you should do this. I think you should do this. And I always do that. And you don't have to buy from me. I just do it naturally. Shit, I think I did it to you in the first like minute of our session. I was like, hey, you should do this. It's just like, it's just how I operate. And there was a moment where I paused for a second. I was like, no, you know what? Like this individual should be in the academy and he knows that. And so I'm not going to do this. And I was like, no, fuck, I don't give a shit. Like I need to get this out of my head or it's going to bother me. So I told him whatever. And he was like, hey man, just so you know, like I'm signing up. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, and so it was interesting because it's like the more I'm myself, yes, there's going to be people that take that advice and do whatever with it. But at least I'm happy. Like it's going back to something you and I talk about and my team talks about, which is letting go of the outcome. Like my entire, like I was like, it gave me permission to again give that free advice because I fucking love doing it. I do it in my sleep. And also too, is this weird thing where if I don't get it out of my head, it just sits in there and it like almost eats away at me. Like I have to give it to you. Like otherwise it's with me and then it drives me nuts. So like,
your ideas, yes.
Like but it's also again, like I've even since the human design started to change the language around, which is weird. Like I have a gift of ideas, but it started to become a negative thing. And so I started saying it almost like I was like almost not happy with the fact that I have like those ideas for people. But then I'm catching myself and going, no, it's not a problem. I just got to get better at knowing where to put them, when to put them somewhere. And it's even too, if like you again, you gave me this advice of waiting until I get the invitation. It's like, well, I can just write it down at least. If I write it down, it's out of my head. And if I need to go find it, I can find it. So that was really cool about it too.
And that I feel like that's the essence of human design, of having a reading, of understanding your design. Because I feel like I didn't tell you anything new. most of what I already told you, you already sensed it within you.
Yeah.
That's the difference, and that's why I feel it's different from any other test. You know, whether it's the MBTI. You know, there's so many other tests that focus on evaluating you, on your personality, on what your character traits, but all of them are external. Whereas what I found with human design is that much of the information that is given, it's like you're connecting to an inner knowing. You already know this. It's nothing new, but it's just giving you that certainty of, okay, yes, I was on the right path, or I was right in feeling this way.
And it helps with self-awareness. Also, I had we have one of my teammates. She was really big in human design. She was the one that told me to do human design. Elisa, shout out to Elisa. But she asked a question I didn't know the answer to, which was, how do I make decisions? She said that there's something on the chart that'll help you see. Like for her, it's intuition. Like she's a manifesting something. I'm sorry for those that are listening. Yes. I'm sorry. Those that are listening that know this shit, it's like, oh my God, this guy's an idiot. Manifesting generator. So she does it through, like, she has to hear the information and then let her gut kind of tell her what to do. So anyway, she was curious how I make decisions.
You're faster than that. You are a splenic projector, so you use your spleen. Your spleen is very much connected to your instinct. So it's like this quick knowing of this is going to be it. If you're overthinking it, you're in your head.
Yeah.
But when it's right, you're going to feel it in your body, but it's a very quick yes, no. It's so fast that when you are connected to your spleen, when you are connected to your body, you just know it. You know whether it's a yes or a no without anybody finishing a sentence. You just know.
Yeah. Which is hilarious. Cause that's how I buy things too. Like with people. Mm-hmm. Like within when I jump on sales calls, I always tell people, like, if you get me on a sales call, I'm the easiest sale in the world. Because right from probably the first 30 seconds, like, I know, like, yes or no. Like immediately, like I literally, my good buddy Rock, who's going to be on the podcast soon, I was on a call with him. He's going to do automation for me. And literally it was like 10 minutes in and I was like, all right, dude, yeah, we're going to move forward. And then he started talking. I was like, Rock, stop talking. You made the sale. Stop. And he's like, okay. But like,
it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good in your body. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about now the implications. There we go. Implications of human design and how it can help. So the first one I saw immediately was branding. Mm-hmm. So from a brand perspective, here's some of the issues that people maybe when they listen to this podcast, may be feeling this way, where it's like, I don't know who I am online yet. They're showing up in 15 different ways. They don't know. So my first thought was human design could be a huge benefit of figuring out one's purpose. So maybe talk to me a little bit about that and how you use that, because I know you're helping entrepreneurs kind of figure this piece out through the human design. So walk me through that a little bit.
Right. So when it comes to branding, the way that we use human design is, yes, there are very specific terms or aspects of your human design. For example, I'm going to go very technical, okay? Your conscious sun. Your conscious sun is, if you look at your chart, it's the top right number that you have in your chart. You're going to see a symbol of the sun, which is a circle with a dot in it, in the middle of it. That the energy or the gate in that placement is going to guide you as to how you brand, how you show up, because that is basically 80% or 70% of your personality.
Also, I don't know
your
if you can see
Mercury.
It. I don't know if you can see it on your side, but do you have a share? Yeah, you can share your screen on here, and then Connor can put it up on YouTube. Okay, for those that are listening, just go to YouTube and you'll be able to see what she's talking about, or just Google human design chart.
Okay, let's see if can I share?
Also, we've never done this before, so this would be a fun experiment.
Can you see your chart?
Where'd it go? No, I don't see it. Do you see it on your side?
No. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it up in a different tab. And then we're going to try it that way. Okay. Now, do you see your chart?
No.
No.
Man. That would have been so cool. Hold on, I'm sure maybe it'll pop up later. Also, let me see if I can do it. I'm just gonna pull up there's that chat media. No. Drop if you have it somewhere, is it like a link or something? Because maybe I can try to pull it up.
Let
If
me see if
not,
I can download it for you and then share it. But
yeah.
as this happens, so if you look at if you're familiar with your human design, your conscious sun is going to tell you much about your personality and how you brand yourself, how you are here to show yourself, the gifts that you're here to share. Your conscious Mercury, which is Mercury is one of the symbols, is also here to share, is also here to show you the type of how you're going to communicate this big message that you have. But besides human design, when you look at the chart in general, then you're able to see, for example, what really lights you up about what you do. And I feel that that's such a huge component of it, because we often get stuck doing the operative sides of business, or we just get stuck in the funnels and the flows and all this other stuff to get more sales, to grow, that we lose the tactical stuff, that we lose connection with what we really want, with the impact that you want to create, with so much of what we're passionate about our business. And again, looking at different aspects of human design and how you are designed to starting from your type, but also going through your centers, you can start connecting to, okay, what really lights you up? What are you really good at? When I look at your profile, you are, if I'm not mistaken, you're a 2-4. Yes, right? You are a 2-4. Yes, you are a 2-4. So looking at your profile, we can talk about, how are you designed to interact with other people? How are you designed to engage? And based on that, we can even connect with what are your unique gifts. Some people are very gifted at asking questions or finding information. Other people are more gifted at networking, or other people are gifted at looking at the big picture at this, on a more strategic level. So there's so many elements of human design that we can look into and to come up with a brand that feels aligned for you. And with that, you can also start identifying not only this is who I am, but you can also start identifying this is who I've been trying to be, and that's not working.
Yeah. I think the reason why, again, I started getting really interested about the branding implication of it too was because, again, like it took me 3 years to figure out how I can show up online in a way that I enjoy. Like literally, I've been trying different things, me not liking this, me not liking that. I've always gotten to the point where I just like couldn't stand my content. Like I can't. I think it sucks and it's terrible. And then just in the last, again, like few months, I was like, oh, this is how I want to show up. But it's because I'm guiding. It's because it's like, oh, it feels more like me. I'm having conversations. And so what I really love about the idea of using human design to start with is because then you can go, oh, this is how I can show up, and you can prevent, showing up in various different ways for years until you find your path. And then from there, you then can find your offer, which I want to move to next. So, for example, one of the things that you enlightened me on was it was the guiding people towards something. And I told you that Elevated was helping people remove obstacles and excuses as to why they can't have what they want, right? So they can realize they deserve more. And then I forgot what about my chart said something similar to that. I can't remember. There was something that you brought up, and I was like, holy shit, that's basically our brand message. I can't remember.
Our brand?
Yeah. But it was just fascinating because, again, I wrapped my offer around it. So maybe talk about how you use human design to help people craft their offers and what they're going to be doing for their business.
I think it starts with your type. You as a projector, for example, one of the first things that I mentioned is that you are not designed to work 18 hours straight. Right? You have your own flow. When you're crafting an offer, one of the things is, okay, how sustainable is this for you, of what you want to offer? not only the details of your offer, but the energy that you're putting into this. Because I see a lot of people getting stuck in the shoulds. I need to have an evergreen offer. I need to have a mastermind. I need to have a group program because this is what I see other people doing. And therefore, if I don't do it, then I'm missing out, or I'm not ahead of the game. So with your type, we can first identify what type of millions of offers or ways in which you can craft an offer. Which ones are the ones that really align with how you are designed to manage your energy? Because if I tell you you're going to be here running offers, or you're going to be launching every month, and you're going to be managing 100 people a day, you're going to be like, no, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go into the tacticals. I want to be more of this high level guide.
What I love about what you talk about, though, is because it doesn't have to be. We've been told a lie that everything has to be hard. And here's what I found, right? Like, there was an offer when I first came out. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it's the most embarrassing offer I've ever had, it was called Combat Ready. It's just fucking embarrassing because I used to be a fighter, and so it was like, but it was a sales program. It's the worst offer ever. But I had to like really grind to get people into that offer for a multitude of different reasons. But I think the underlying reason was because I didn't really enjoy the offer. I can help people with sales, but like it was all tactical shit. And I even said to you, like, if I had to do a piece of content one more time about the 3 things what not to say on a sales call, I was gonna die. Like, I just hated it. It was boring. I can't do it. And versus though, I launched Elevated, and I think in 2 weeks we got to 12 members, and because it was aligned to what I should be doing. And I think the thing that I really like about it, because I've helped so many coaches and consultants come up with offers, and it's one of those things I ask them, I'm like, okay, doing human design is way easier, so they should do that instead. But the way that I usually ask people is like, okay, what is something that you would do for free if I made you, right? Like all your needs are met, but like you have to do this for free and you have to do it forever. What does that offer look like? And that's usually how we get closer to it. Because again, for Elevate, that was mine. That's how I figured out what to do, was that I could do Elevated forever. I'm going to do it forever. And I would do it. It's not free, but I would do it for free, right? Because I love it. But what I also thought was interesting was you had said like, oh, you're a natural networker. And I was like, false. I hate networking. But it's because of the way that, like, I perceive networking as you go to one of those stupid events and you talk to people at tables. Like, I don't like it without intention. Right? Like my whole thing, and this is where the human design came in and helped me realize my version of networking is I see 2 people that they could work together to create something even better. And then that's when I was like, because for a little bit, I'm not going to lie. And again, you helped me realize that I'm on the right path. For a minute, I was like, why do I have a mastermind? Because I hate networking. Like, I don't think this is the right offer for me, even though I love it. But then it's because I realized, again, what I really enjoy doing is taking 2 members and going, you have this offer, you have that offer, you guys are both missing something combined, and now you have this awesome offer there, and I do that shit in my sleep. And so again, doing the human design thing, I was like, oh, this makes more sense. Okay.
Yes.
Because when you said networker, I was like, this is bullshit.
No. And the other aspect of your profile is what you said, I do this shit in my sleep. Because it's so easy for you. Whereas for somebody like me, I'm not designed like that. I'm more of a trial and error experimenting person. And I have no idea how to join 2 people to create something new. If you tell me to do that, I'm going to be like, what, how?
Yeah.
And for you, it just, you don't even think twice about it. It just comes naturally. That's the beauty of when you tap into those gifts, when you see somebody's profile, when you read their design, you can see, okay, you're just naturally gifted at this, and start asking different questions instead of what you're offering and why you're offering. And I feel like you can ask different questions that become more expansive to create a more aligned offer.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into, so we talked about how great I am for the last like hour. So let's get into where I suck. So there is some, and again, I think you were like really kind. I think you called them shadows. Is that what it was? Like there's the shadow side of it, which is a way nicer way than what I just said. So what are some of the negatives to a projector like me? Like the one was I obviously give people guidance when they don't fucking ask for it. Fair. And also, again, I'm going to get off topic here, and then we'll get back to my shadows. But also, this popped up for me when I was talking to Kayla the other day, and she was talking to me about something. She was like upset about something, and and made me be conscious of, I want to fix this. I want to tell her what to do. And so I think about it and go, don't do that. Just, and I'm, by the way, I'm not perfect. Listen, I screw this up a lot, but I have to like remember, especially with her, it's like, she doesn't want me to fix it. She doesn't want guidance. She does not want coaching. She's told me many times, I do not need your coaching. So I go, okay, what am I supposed to do? But what's really funny is I don't know how to operate sometimes without giving people guidance. So I just sat there. I was like, you just want a hug? I don't know. What are some of my fucking biggest flaws? Let's talk about them.
Well, I'm gonna put my disclaimer here. I don't like to call them flaws because we operate in a continuum, right? So in human design, there is you can overexpress certain attributes of yourself out of fear, because maybe you want to be seen, maybe because you want to be heard, or you can completely underexpress them, not show up with your gifts because you just think, why bother? Nobody's going to listen to me anyway, and you just completely give up.
Yeah.
And what we are looking for is to help you stay in alignment, in that healthy balance for as long as possible. Granted, it's not going to be forever. You're always going to move one way or the other.
Yeah.
But the key is to have that awareness, to not stay there for days, maybe just stay there for a couple of minutes and then bring you back into alignment. That's the essence of the work that we do with human design. So every single center that you have, every single aspect that you have in your design has this overexpression or this sub-expression. So as a projector, for example, with your type, yes, you can, if you are not aware, you may tend to blurt things out and say, hey, have you thought about doing this? Or, yeah, but why don't you do this? And if people are not ready to receive that loving feedback, they can either reject you or they criticize you or not listen to you, and that feels bad. And it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. Here I am trying to help people. Why are they not listening to me? I have all these ideas. Why isn't anybody implementing what I'm saying? Because they're not ready to receive. So one of the aspects is of speaking out of when the timing is not right. That's one aspect of a projector, right? Or just saying things right through, thinking that they're going to receive them. But maybe what you're saying can be sometimes a little bit harsh. But for you, it's just a fact.
I could put it like a disclaimer, right? If somebody asked me, I could say, if I give you this idea, are you going to execute? And if they say no, I just don't give it to them. Yes.
And then the work that you do is releasing the attachment of the idea, because your worth is not aligned, has nothing to do with how many people execute your ideas. It's up to them if they execute them or not, right?
I'm gonna need to work on that one, because I do get a little mad if I give people ideas. They don't do anything with it. I'm gonna have to work on that one.
So now if we go down through your design, and this is for everybody, if you have an open head, so the head center is one of the top ones. If that one is white, then you're gonna feel the pressure to answer everybody's questions. You have the pressure to have the right answer, always looking for the answer. And maybe even attaching yourself with how much you know. If you have an open ajna, which is the one that follows, the one that looks like a triangle but downward looking, it's the pressure for certainty. It's the pressure to know when things are going to happen. Some people, when it's overexpressed, they become so attached to their plans. They become so attached to their knowledge because they feel so uncomfortable with not knowing. If you have an open throat center, you may feel like you're never seen, heard, or seen. You're never understood. And this happens to people. You might find, at a bar, everybody's calling for the bartender, and people with an open throat center are just like ignored. They'll always go with somebody who has a defined center. So there's this thing of, I need to be louder. I need to call attention. I need to be the funny one. Or on the other extreme, you're going to have people say, no, I'm just going to be that one sitting at the back of the room, not saying anything, because why bother? They're never going to listen to me anyway. If you have...
sorry to cut you off, but there's another thing you mentioned that was like, again, gave me permission for this, was that you talked about, again, going into sprints for things, but also that I was a hermit. What was it? Hermit what?
And so your line 2 is a hermit, and the line 4 is a networker.
So, which is funny because I always get the sense that I'd love people and I love connecting people, but then there's these moments where I just, like last night, I don't want to be around anybody. I want my book. Don't talk to me. Like, some of my favorite nights is like Kayla and I will sit on the couch together reading, but not talk to each other. It's like my favorite nights. But I have to do that. And again, it's funny because I tried to explain to people that I'm not an extrovert. Mm-hmm. Like, I really like being alone, but people don't believe me. So when I saw that, I was like, see, I'm not crazy. Yes. Like, I told you, I'm not.
Right. Right. So you see how with everything, there's always that pressure to be somebody who you're not. And though that's where the shadows come in. That's where these overexpressive behaviors or repressive behaviors come into play. If you have a defined G center, you're going to feel the pressure to want to be like everybody else. You're not going to be maybe not certain of who am I, or feeling pressure to find a fixed direction, maybe even attaching yourself or who you are, your identity, to the types of outcomes you have or labels. So if you go through all the charts, you're going to see all these shadows. So different configurations have different shadows. Some aspects of the chart actually go against each other. Like this 2-4 energy that you have is one of those of, I like being with people, yes, but I'm with people, no, I just want to be by myself. And having that push-pull energy of yes, no, yes, no. And part of the growth that we have within that contradiction is understanding to how do I feel in these scenarios? How do I feel comfortable with myself without attaching any labels or judging myself for not being too much of this or for being too much of that?
And it is very difficult, right? Because you look at other, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you look at other entrepreneurs, like other networkers. Like, I think about like people that I look up to in the space that are networkers, like Joe Polish or, those types. And they're like always on, always networking. And I have like limited energy there, even though I love doing it. And so listen, I won't say to everybody, I used to beat myself up about it and go, man, like, I don't think I can ever be that good because I'm a fucking hermit. But there are times, though, now because of this, I realize that the huge advantage of the fact that I pull away from people, because it gives me time to think for myself. Like, it gives me time to come up with the ideas and to read. And so, like, I need both those things or I would go crazy. So I have two other things I wanted to ask you about that's not directly tied with human design, but we'll probably tie in a little bit. So one of the things I thought was so brilliant about your podcast, Thriving Solopreneur, right?
Yes.
Did I get that name right? Okay.
Yes. So
the episode I listened to was so good because you talked about the thing that so many people do, which they buy courses, they go coaching program, nothing works, and they can't figure out why. And so I guess what is your new, what advice would you have to people that are like, again, in that hamster wheel of buying program after program, course after course, but nothing's working? My advice is usually way more mean. It's your damn fault, not the coaching programs usually, but because it's like you don't know what the fuck you're looking for or what you need. So that's a whole other thing. But what would your advice be to those people that are maybe on that same kind of path of like buying those things up, but nothing seems to be happening for them?
Coming from somebody who has 20 certifications, so I've been on, I've been one of those. I have no idea how much money I've invested in all of those programs. And what I've learned from that, in my case, I had to go through each of those experiences to understand myself. And where I was working from is I don't trust myself, but I trust what other people are doing. So whenever I bought one of those programs, my intention was they're going to fix it for me. Oh, I want to reach 10K a month. Yeah, he or she is going to tell me how to do it, and I'm going to follow it. So I've created this scenario, romanticized scenario of I'm going to follow the program perfectly. They're going to love it, and I'm going to love it, and I'm going to have, boom, instant success. And then the second part of it comes when, yes, they might have amazing frameworks and a great way to help you get to those results. But if in the implementation process, you are the one that's putting yourself in the way, then it's not going to work. And that's what tends to happen. The minute that you start implementing, then life gets busy. You start focusing on other things. You start focusing on the next new program, on the thing that maybe seems easier, on maybe you're worried about how other people are going to see you, or there's just so much stuff that goes into your mind that comes up because part of your mind is trying to keep you safe from taking that extra step, because that extra step is scary as hell. right? You've never done it. It's scary to do something when you've never done it before. So your mind, your subconscious mind, is trying to keep you safe from that. And it's going to find all the possible excuses to help you not take action, to help you delay, showing up, or delay launching that program. And then you start looking for the next program and the next program. And it's only until you realize that the resources that you have are within you. You don't need anything else. You have enough.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that struggle with this for sure. And then you have the opposite people, right, that don't get any help. But that's why I think it's so important that, like, look, information's out there if you take the time to look for it. And obviously to hire a coach is simply just to maybe not take some of the pitfalls and make the same mistakes, right? But if you're doing it, to your point, I think it's important to know if you're doing it from a place of lack. Right? Like, I'm not enough. This person is amazing. And by the way, like, unfortunately right now, and it's not anyone's fault, but like online, it's really easy to look at someone and go, they have it all figured out. Which is why, like, I think it's a point of pride for me that, like, I try not to do that. And a lot of my content is the fuck ups I've made, because I've made a lot. And I think it's important to talk about those. And yes, but also even that was difficult. Because when I first started doing it, I didn't want to do it because I was like, well, then people are not going to want to work with me. Like, it's just this weird game we play in our heads. But what's interesting is the moment that I started sharing, hey, I just dropped 30 grand to do a live workshop, and it did not work. And here's why it didn't work. Like, that the content's coming out soon, that YouTube video. Like, I get way more people that are appreciative of it, because at least I'm, like, honest. Like, it's not always amazing, but yeah, like I said, it's easy to kind of compare ourselves. So then what now is your parameters for, like, deciding whether or not you invest again? Because again, if I were you, I probably wouldn't invest in anything ever again, because you already have 25,000 certifications. But, like, what is your, like, how do you decide whether or not it's something that you want to do or not? Because also it's this weird dichotomy. I'm sorry to cut you off again, but it's this weird, interesting dichotomy where it's like, yes, you don't need anything because you've already done a lot. But then you can also get on this other side of it where the ego kicks in and doesn't want you to do it because it's like, well, I already know everything. So, like, how do you balance those two, things?
So I became more specific on the type of help that I need right now. A year ago, it was all about I need fixing, right? I need to be more of that. I need to feel more confident. I need to build my self-trust. And I've been working a lot on that. And more than changing myself, it's more of a coming to terms with my gifts, connecting back to human design. So I think I put up a healthy pause on the personal development side of it. Now my focus is on very specific aspects on business, of where or how I see my business growing and what type of support that I need. And something that I really learned this year, by supporting other people and seeing other coaches, those high-end coaches, and seeing the incongruencies of how they express and what they live inside, I've become even more selective of who I want to work. So I've learned not to put people on a pedestal. And, I am more attracted to those coaches who, show up and they're very honest about what didn't work, where they're very honest about their mistakes. I really, really value that now, because I've seen how manipulative this industry can be, and how you can see it on the outside as everything's perfect. You just invest $100K, $10K, whatever it is on this program, and boom, we're going to solve it. And then on the other side, this coach isn't really living it, isn't really running their business that way, or there's just so many incongruencies.
Or it's like they may be living like the business is great, but like personally they're fucked up.
Exactly. Yes. Or they're struggling.
Like,
yes.
Like, to me, because again, it's like, I think it's perfectly possible to have a business, but also impact lives in a good way, and also have a good marriage, and also be a good parent. Like, you can have all of it. But like, that's who I'm drawn to. Like, the mentors that I have, they're great fathers, they're great mothers, and they also fucking crush it in business, and they have a very healthy relationship with their own ego, And like, that's what I look for. It's like, you know, it's super interesting. So I think one of the things you should do, honestly, is like, for example, like, obviously I'm going to be pressuring the shit out of you for the next year to join Elevated, because obviously I think you would be like the greatest member we ever have. Because I think you would give it a lot. But anybody that ever positions you and say, hey, I want you to join a mastermind, you should do a human design on them, because you'll know if they're full of shit or not. Like, I think that would, like, honestly, like, I will do
design first.
but you got to do a human design. I'm not joking. I said that to my team. I said, I want everybody to do, I want everyone to do human design if they haven't already, because from a team perspective, it'll help me know, like, how to better utilize those people. But also, it's like, if I get, because some of the, on the agency side, we partner with people and it's very long-term relationships. And so it's like, that's another one where I'm like, I would want them to do a human design so I know what to watch out for, or if we're going to gel, is what's important to them the same thing that's important to us? Because, like, one of the things that I don't like working with is if all you care about is making money, there's nothing wrong with it, by the way.
Yes.
Like, if you're somebody that's like, I measure my success by how much money I make, there's nothing wrong with that. The mastermind that I run will not be a good fit for you, because it's about, can we get closer to an enlightenment, which will never come, but it may in sprints, but also impact the lives of others. So you have to meet both. But if it's only money, so that before you come in, human design, like, I need to see it. You know what I mean? So anyway, my advice that you didn't ask for is to, before you invest in anything ever again, make them do human design.
That is such a great idea, because I would learn a lot. And to answer your question, I feel like we need more of those raw, authentic moments, because yes, you can be a great father, a great partner, and you're still going to mess up along the way, and it's okay, and it's great to be honest about that. I think we need more honesty in the online space, because we're all human, we're all learning, and I feel that's one of the reasons why I'm changing my language to recalibration, because I feel like recalibration is like this ongoing term where it's not perfect. You know, transformation seems more fixed, of you're there, you've transformed, you've evolved. Yeah. But recalibration is ongoing. And as you become more aware, you're still going to make mistakes on the way. You're still going to realize that you have these shadows, or you're going to still come to terms, have a different relationship with your own shadows. And that makes you even more human, makes you more authentic. And I feel that that's what attracts people into your space as well.
Well, even the guy that introduced me to, and arguably I got to have him come back on the podcast, but the guy that introduced me to transformation work in general, and then I actually created Elevated off of his 5 laws. First of all, I loved the way he looked at things. 'Cause I remember saying, like, hey, dude, like, I'll give you money for giving me this idea and whatever. He's like, no, they're not my ideas. Like, I discovered them, but somebody else does this. This is just a combination of a handbook. Like, it's not mine, so use it. Which is why I love him. But the other thing is, I remember talking to him, and in my mind, he had everything put together. Like, it was all about being conscious versus unconscious, and it seemed like he always was conscious. And I remember I had this long conversation with him, and I said, is there any moments that still make you unconscious, that still, like, kick in? Like, and he's like, yeah, my son. Like, you know, like but because he said that, shared that with me, I was more attached to his training, because I go, oh, he's real, because that shit's real. Like, I've gotten better, and I think it's a skill that you improve on over time. It's never going to be perfect, and I'm gotten better at being conscious and going, okay, that is having a trigger effect on my thoughts and my feelings, and that's not real. That's some bullshit that I haven't dealt with. I'll deal with that later. I'm not mad at you. And I'm good at doing that, but then there's times my son will do something and immediately I'm mad, like unconscious, right? Like, so I think it's important that people are more real about the fact that, like, I think what I've realized about life and spirituality, whatever you want to call it, being, you know, a transformation, is if you go unconscious 99% of the day, can we get it to 95? Can we get it to 90? And then slowly get it? You'll probably never be 0. Unless you're Gandhi or some shit, or you're the next Buddha.
Exactly.
It's probably never going to be 0. But how much better would your life be if you were more conscious and then attracted the life that you wanted, and it doesn't have to be that hard because of the way that you look at life, because of the way that you are better, like, more conscious of what your thoughts are happening, and you're more of an observer with, like, all these components that we all talk about all the time. Not all, but, like, weirdos like me and you, the woo of the world. Like, that's the goal. It's not to be perfect because, I mean, again, unless you're Jesus or whoever, like, that's probably not going to happen for you. Maybe not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I agree. And it's moving the conversation away from this constant search for perfection. Because again, we can never attain perfection because we're always evolving. We're never there. And it's through the journey that we really discover ourselves. And that's the biggest gift that we can have, and the biggest gift that we can give to others is that journey of experimentation, of recalibration or transformation, however you want to call it. But it's the journey in itself that is so powerful. And I think like every single entrepreneur who has been on this journey of building and starting a business and running ahead, like they've evolved, they've grown, they've learned so much from themselves in that process. And that is also something that is so powerful. It's such a gift to also begin to share. And if we bring it back to how do we craft an offer, how do we build a brand, it's also by tapping into that experience that so many, I sense that not many coaches tap into. They don't have that conversation of what was it like for you? What can you share from your own experience, from your own wisdom of, so many years in the online space, or maybe from having failed launches, instead of hiding that, with shame, or, I'm not supposed to share that, or I'm just supposed to show these sold out offers or my endless waiting list.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's tricky. And again, last 3 years, it's only in the last 6 months that I've gotten really comfortable with sharing, that not things always worked out. Like it wasn't until the last year, but that's why I'm so passionate about finding, like, aligning purpose with the offer, because this year is my first year that I felt like I was a success. It has nothing to do with the money. It was because, and we did pretty good this year, but it was because I made money doing what I'm fucking passionate about. It wasn't just about making money. It wasn't the sales. It was like, no, I have a fucking dope mastermind with dope ass people. Yes, I made it. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, and the stuff that I'm being recognized for online, like I had mentors reach out and say, hey, this shit's really, really good. Like people that I look up to. And it's because, and normally I would be really mad about that because I was like, oh, this shit sucks. But it was stuff that I actually enjoyed making. And so I'm like, okay, but that didn't happen until I figured out my purpose. And that's why I think I'm so adamant about it now. But anyway, I think it's a good place to leave off. Any final thoughts? Andrea, this was amazing. Again, I think we need to do this like every other week if I could.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you.
This stuff is fascinating to me. But any final words of encouragement or anything you want to give to the people listening?
One of my mentors said, you're a once in a lifetime event. You're a once in a lifetime cosmic event. So there's no reason for you to hide. There's no reason for you to hold back. On the other hand, people really they need you. They need you in your essence. They need you in your power, because you are part of that ripple effect of change and evolution.